Reading is not just a leisure activity, it's one of the most important and foundational skills of your adult life. I think reading is easily as important as diet, fitness, or career, and yet we speak about these topics much more often. Such is the importance of reading to your spiritual, emotional, and intellectual development. I've spent an awful amount of time thinking about how we can take adult non-readers to readers. And this path to a life-changing habit and hobby is much simpler than you might think. You are already a reader. Even if you don't notice it, you're reading all the time. There's no point where you suddenly become a reader. We are all readers, and there's no further rules or requirements for calling yourself that. But you're here because you want to read more books, and that's great, and I've got advice for you. But you need to know that you already have all of the tools you need to be a great reader. You should read anything that you're interested in reading. If you don't read, the most important thing is that we start reading. And that means there is literally no right or wrong answer to what you should be reading. If you like football, read a football book. If you like dance, read a dance book. If you don't know what you like to read, then this channel makes videos about book recommendations. Find the first book that interests you, purchase it, and start reading it. Don't let anybody gatekeep you into thinking that there are books that you should or should not be reading. You do not need to read classic text. You do not need philosophical treatises. You need to start developing your skill as a reader. And the most important thing to doing that is enjoying what you read. You can start reading at any budget. You don't need a home library like this to start reading. Every town and city has charity stores and used bookstores where you can buy cheap books. You can buy ex-library copies of books that, while beaten up, are much cheaper than the retail price. I'll put some resources to some of the websites that I use to source books in the description below. And if you've got a Kindle, and you certainly don't need one to start reading, ebooks are much cheaper than print books over the long term. However, I've got much more to say about print versus digital books, but I'll save that for another video. If you can scrounge together enough cash to buy a coffee, you've got enough cash to buy a book. This one really grinds my gears. There is no need to read a certain number of books per year. This has become very popular. People like to tell you that they read 50 books or 100 books. You should not feel bad about the number that you are reading, or actually feel any urge at all to increase the number that you are reading. On the opposite end of the scale, people are now bragging about how few books they've read. They're now claiming that because they only read one book, but they read it very slowly and deeply, that is much more valuable than somebody that read more books. And this is all nonsense. Read exactly as many books per year as you want to. Do not track how many books you're reading. The most important thing is that you read consistently, you enjoy it, and you get something out of it. When you start reading, you're going to find it difficult, and you're going to find that your attention wanders continuously. Most of the activities that we engage in today reduce attention span. YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram, social media in general. Reading is an attention span expanding exercise, and that's why it feels difficult. You're training the mind. When you first start reading, the most important thing is that you don't try to read for too ambitious a time. And I use a method myself still of reading for a long time that maintains my attention, and that's I read, I rest, and then I start reading again. So this is what I suggest you do. Pick up your book and start reading for 5 to 10 minutes. Or as soon as you start feeling your attention drift on the page, you know, when your eyes skate over the words but you suddenly realise that you don't exactly know what's going on and you're not sure how many pages to go back. As soon as you notice that, that's the time to stop. Put the book down, pause and rest. And then after a short rest, pick up the book again, and you'll notice that you're much more easily able to pay attention to the words again. And by doing this, you're able to read for longer periods of time, build up your focus slowly, and get a lot more out of your reading sessions. You can abandon a book. You can. It's okay. I won't tell anyone. You're not going to make the right choice every time with what you're reading. Just put it aside. Do not let your distaste for a book stop you from being a consistent reader. Just choose another book. It might be the wrong time for you. It might be too difficult. It might just be wrong. But you can stop reading a book. I don't know why people are so obsessed with this. And the last, and maybe most important, also the most useless advice is you need to read every day. Saying that is almost completely useless, and there's lots of different ways to read more. You carry a book with you all the time, read before you go to bed, start a habit schedule. I don't want to get into those details because I find most of those discussions useless. I don't know you, you don't know me, we don't know each other's lives. But the important thing is that you place reading at the top of your priority list, or at least pretty high up, and it should be more than achievable to make sure that you've read something every single day. And it really doesn't matter if that's just one page. Once you become a consistent reader, you'll become a skilled reader. Close the video, go and get a book and read something.